So, welcome to session number 4. We are 30% done with our sessions with masterclass. And tonight, it's such an honor and a privilege. Now, this is going to be a spin-off from Friday's session that will also lead you to session number ano ba tayo? 5. So, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6 are really dedicated to improve your technical know-how so that you'll be able to communicate better with your clients and your prospective clients now. So tonight, this guy does not need any introduction. He is a bona fide celebrity. He's a YouTube sensation with over 200 plus thousand followers. For you to have even 10,000 following in YouTube, that's very, very difficult. Ako nga 8,000 lang, no? So, hirap na hirap na ako mag-video. But this guy has over 200,000. He has done, I don't know how much videos he has done in his life. I mean, all of this is something that he's been building on for quite a long, long time. And he's the most followed stock market celebrity in the country today. So 200, won't be surprised, gonna breach 500 and eventually a million. And bigay ko lang kayo ng konting tip, no? This guy made a killing in Bitcoin. He bought it at $10. He bought Bitcoin at 10. Can you just imagine? Okay, joke lang yun ha. Naliliit si Marvin. Really, this guy really is nasa namin introduction is really, and it's hard to teach people. Ang galing. And single-handedly, he has really brought a lot of attention to the stock market. And more than his being in TV and YouTube and everything, he's just hard. Yung heart niya to reach out to a lot of people, ordinary Filipinos, yun yung dream niya to make them investors. And he's done such a great job doing that. So when I was creating the masterclass, I wanted to bring this guy in. And despite his busyness, despite his status, despite his stature, despite his celebrity identity, he could not say no because just like Val, okay, ninong din ako ni Marvin. You'll realize that marami magtuturo sa inyo, inaanak mo yan. So they couldn't say no to him. So I asked him, Marvin, we need your help. And Marvin's gonna talk to you like a stock market 101. I know some of you are already investors, but he wants you to understand from a financial advisor's perspective. Also, and what's important, most of you would sell VOLs with equity components, and a lot of people don't even understand how this works. All right? So this guy was a former IT professional. Okay, he worked for many companies. When I met him, he was still working for HP. I've seen him gain weight, lose weight, and all of this time. And he moved in. He became a professional of what he's doing. And grabe. This guy can always teach people on how to understand investments and stock market particularly. He's a specialist, okay? And he's gonna talk to you about. So, ito lang ha. Marami kayong tanong sa akin, hindi ko kaya sagutin. Sasagutin lahat yan ni Marvin ngayong gabi. Okay? Just like in our previous classes, we ended at 1 a.m. I think this guy can sleep at like 5 a.m. and wake up at 8 a.m. So, no joke lang. You can ask him his questions, and like anything else, this is gonna be recorded for your benefit, so that we gonna, just in case for internet or maraming masyado dinuro si Marvin, yun na masyado nakahabol, you can always rewind it. So, let me bring in to the frame my good friend, okay? The one and only, my inaanak, okay? And my idol. Idol ko yan talaga. And ito sabihin sa inyo, yung investment port ko, kulay green dahil sa kanya. If not for this guy, okay, Happy Valentine's lagi yung aking port. Ngayon, despite the pandemic, green siya because I listen to Marvin. In fact, chichismis ko lang, I never buy any investment without first asking him. You know why I do that? Number one, I trust him. Number two, he's highly competent. Number three, I want someone to blame in case it does not work. So pag nire-recommend yun si Marvin, Ninong, teka, parang hindi bagay sa'yo yan. Huwag na lang. But the joke na lang. It's really, I love this guy. This guy is really one of the siguro most important individuals in this industry. And I am such an honored and privileged that I get to work with him a lot, eat with him, okay, and really, we brought this advocacy. Marvin, magte-10 years na tayo magkasama. So it's, or 10 years na yata. No? It's great that you're here. And thank you from the bottom of my heart na kahit na small time kami, pinagbigyan mo kami. Okay? Turn you over to Marvin. Guillermo, Marvin, take it away.
Hello?
Yeah, go.
Yan. Hi, wow. I was cringing the whole time, no?
Gumaganti lang ako sa'yo, bro.
It's so it's so hard, but thank you so much for inviting me, and Durandal Johnson, thank you for this opportunity always to share, kasi ganun naman lagi the whole goal of why we do sessions like this also is to bring as much information to people so they can invest properly. And I just want to mention a lot of things na sinabi niya. By the way, madami ako nakikita na regular sa YouTube comment section, sila Meg, tsaka sila ISM, sila Mark. Hello to all of you. And to everyone that's enrolled in this entire course, I hope that after this, it really helps you grow as a professional in your industry. But above and beyond being a professional in your industry, it also gives you somehow knowledge to invest on your own. Because at the end of the day, you will notice this. I don't know the content of the different speakers, but you will notice there will be different biases, different styles, different strategies. There will be different there will be different things that I would never invest in, pero sila they would invest in it, and there would be certain things also that they invest in, but that they would not invest in that I love investing in also. And please do note also that no, I'm a big fan of diversification. Not diversification just for the sense na kailangan mo mag-diversify para hati-hati lahat, pero intentional diversification. It's just that sa lahat ng pinagda-diversifyan ko, for me, the stock market is one of the most exciting and fun in a way, because it allows you to be part of something that you know will be even bigger, better in the next few years. And hindi totoo yung Bitcoin na $10. I just started 2018. Pero at that point also, no, it was under the context na, ay hindi, sobra, gusto ko lang, sobra lang, lagay lang tayo ng sobra dyan. It wasn't as intentional. Ngayon, napupuyat na talaga ako dahil sa cryptocurrency, because I think it has evolved into something that's more accepted by a large group of people. And lastly, may sinabi sila Randall kanina na madaming nasa TikTok or YouTube dito. I think one of the platforms that people should watch out for, this is not connected to finance, but look at Clubhouse. It's very, very interesting. It's very, very new, but I think that's the future. Valuations done, it was valued already at $40 billion already by February. Last month, nasa $1 billion lang siya. Anyways, just a quick also background of myself. I love investing in stocks. It's really amazing, and I started investing Philippine stocks muna. Then somewhere around 2013, I started investing in the Singapore market. Then I think a year or two after that, I started also diversifying in US stocks. So what you will get also here is something that's generic that you could use for both Philippine, US, and Singapore markets, because the tools and the skills on how you would deploy capital and analyze things, hindi naman siya nagbabago. It's just that iba-iba lang siguro yung iba-iba lang yung size ng ibang markets. Some, like the Philippines, we have a lot of traditional businesses here. That's why mapapansin mo yung paggalaw ng markets sa Philippines is so different sa paggalaw ng markets in other countries, where other countries na highly connected to the vaccine, highly connected to technology, fintech, they've seen enormous growth already, whereas tayo, we are kind of left behind also because of the exposure of the companies that we have. So, yun. Just to give you also a premise, this is my second time lang to be invited here, no? So when I did the first run to be able to share here, the basic premise for this is at least meron na kayong basic understanding on what equities are, what the stock market is. We won't really touch anymore ano yung stock market, bakit to meron doon. So you have already a basic at least foundation on it. But I'm still gonna mention a couple of things that are foundational and a lot of things that are based on my own preferences. So please do note also, in the world of investing, diba, sobrang daming strategies yan. And you will notice, when I started investing, isa sa mga sinusundan ko si Warren Buffett. Pero as I started to grow also through the years, I've realized that there were some principles that I was using before na hindi ko na ginagamit ngayon, na yun talaga yung pinaka-core ko when I started investing. But through the years, I started to deviate from it. So what I suggest also from you is try to get as much as you can here, then try to execute it on your own to see ano yung pinaka-mag-work sa inyo. Because who we are as investors is a combination of ano yung napag-aralan natin, ano yung experiences natin, ano yung risk tolerance natin, ano rin yung mga biases natin. So that's what we will get here. Basically, academics, principles, then experience, then some practical lessons as well. And the whole goal of this, and Randall mentioned this already, which nakalimutan ko sabihin, no, kaya siya madaming inaanak dito kasi guys, kung gusto niyo malaki regalo niyo sa wedding niyo, get him as ninong. Sobrang pampataas talaga ng portfolio. It's a portfolio adding experience to get him as ninong. Anyways, so the objective of this is basically to help you as advisors that that you get to explain the stock market to your prospective clients, to people around you, and also you get to dig down in and of yourself also that you get to have I guess knowledge that it's not just something that's head knowledge but it's executable knowledge na napagdaanan nyo eh. And the reason why I love investing in stocks, and I know that there will be times talaga na the stock market is not as rosy. Minsan may times na may nakakatakot or bumabagsak siya or times that it's so red, but the thing that gives me conviction when those things happen is that I've seen it happen before eh. And I know Rex Mendoza's part of this roster. I've only been in the market for over a decade. He's been in the market for over 3 decades. And the conviction that I have based on over a decade's worth of investing versus the 3 decades that Rex Mendoza has, it's different eh. So I hope that it comes to a point also that you get what you need here and it allows you to experience the market even better. Now, for today's lesson, I'll double down on this, and I just divided it into two. Number one, things your clients need to consider before they invest in the stock market, because this is what I think is different now compared to what it was 10, 11, 12 years ago. Because there's so much information when it comes to investing. Dati kasi, as in, when I was starting out, no one knew what the market was. Above and beyond, no one knew what the market was. They would always think na sugal siya. They would always think na mahirap siya pasukin. Fast forward to where we are today, because there's so much information available, people already have knowledge about it. Eh. And the goal of this is that when you meet your clients, at least you know enormously more than them, and you will meet, especially if you meet people that are higher, the higher they are in market A. When you're talking to the AP market already, the more eloquent they are, the more you should know also when you talk about certain items and certain jargons when it comes to the market. So number two is I tried to factor in, this is what we discussed the last time. I tried to factor in lahat ng mga uh, lahat ng mga frequently asked questions that advisors would normally ask me na tinatanong din ng mga clients nila, and then I tried to compile them. I think it's 5 or 6 frequently asked questions, and then we can also discuss them all together. And as what I've mentioned earlier, what has basically changed right now is the access to information pagdating sa stock market is so easy because all of them right now can just easily access YouTube. There's so much blogs, there's so much websites about it, there's so much books and publications that have been written already about the stock market. So it's nice to, if you are a financial advisor, it's nice that you become the person that adds value to them, that every time they meet you, this is, the goal of it is, pag bumagsak yung market, they have a plan. Pag umakyat yung market, they have a plan that hindi sila kinakabahan because when clients invest just for the hope of making money, the problem with that is since the market moves in cycles, there will come a point in time na meron dyan for sure they will start investing pag nasa taas eh. Meron yan. That's a probable scenario that if they come in at the highest point or they come in when the market is relatively higher, the problem is they will face a correction. And when you explain it in a way to them already that okay, ito yung condition ng market ngayon, pag medyo mataas siya, there's a possible correction. The whole goal and the whole narrative is even if bumagsak yung market, they would be the first people to invest further, or they would be the first group of people that would know what they would do. Because the sad thing is, when investors, especially mga first-time investors, pag nasunog sila, when they lose money, the problem there is ano eh, hindi na sila mag-invest eh. And we don't want that to happen eh, because I really believe investing is amazing. Investing allows you to put things on the ground that we don't want na they make a mistake and they won't invest totally, and then they would say na mali yan stocks na yan, mali yung equity funds na yan, scam lahat yan. That's not the best way to make money, and the goal is to help educate them with a great deal. And I try to segment it so far, no, at least into two. I really believe that this is how most likely the Philippine market is still. There's a very, very large market of people that's still not investing, which is the largest type of market that out of 110 million Filipinos, mas malaki pang tao, mas malaki pang proportion ng population yung hindi nag-invest. So you could either be a financial advisor that will cater to that portion that they don't know as much yet. They've heard about it. They've seen it on YouTube. They've seen it on TikTok. They've seen it on TV. That eto pala yun, ganyan. Pero they haven't really executed. And I think that there's so much opportunity there, especially for the Philippines. That Singapore, think about it. Singapore, you talk to everyone there, even taxi drivers, nag-invest sila sa stock market. But their population is only 5 million. Sa atin, 110 million. Then I think around 40 plus million working class. Around, I'm correct, I don't have the exact data with me, but you have a large chunk of the population that's working. That's much, much bigger than Singapore. Tapos, they're from 20 to 50 years old. So, I that that group of people, demographically speaking, number one, may pang-invest sila, pero they're not just educated the right way. And number two, these are the ones that are watching my YouTube channel. Very, very small niche market that like stocks because there's still a small amount of people that are really into the market. So either you can focus on people that are investing already in the stock market and teach them more about it, or you can tap the ones that are largely untapped still. So the parallelism there is you always think about broadband internet in the Philippines. A lot of people are talking about ano yan, labanan yan, Globe, PLDT dito for mobile. Pero what people don't see is the name of the game is broadband. Madami pang Pilipino na walang broadband. Lahat ng tao, meron ng 4G, meron ng LTE, meron ng 5G, magpapalit lang sila. So, si dito, si PLDT, si Globe, maglalabanan sila dun sa to either keep their clients or to push them to switch. Sa broadband, it's a wide open space eh. Sobrang daming wala. That's why those like Converge and PLDT that are positioning into it, they can just continue to build and grow. And yun, you have so much opportunity to continue to teach people. And I forgot to mention this. What makes sessions like this very, very special is, I really believe that all 170 plus of you here can reach more people than just me by myself talking about stocks. Because I can talk about stocks and investing all day, but the multiplier effect of 177 of you doing it well and doing it right, I think sobrang lakas nun. Anyways, this is the data, by the way, no, for the PSE at least, na meron accounts na nag-open sa stock market. That has changed already. I think over last year, nagdoble yung accounts primarily because of everyone's lockdown. Everyone wants to earn off the internet, and the stock market was one of the easiest ways for people to do it. And it's not just in the Philippines. We've seen it also overseas that a lot of retail investors that are younger, they're the ones that are opening accounts and they're the ones that are creating trading volumes. And what's interesting about today, no, sa mga nag-invest na sa inyo sa stock market, when we did this course around November last year, hindi pa ganun yung shift eh. Today, locals, sobrang laki ng proportion ng volume ng locals versus foreigners. When I was starting out to invest, no, I think the value turnover at that time was around 2 billion to 3 billion a day. Tapos 60% non-foreigners. So you just try to wrap your head around that. 60% of 3 billion more than a decade ago. Tapos 40% of 3 billion lang yung local. So parang you're getting roughly around 1.2 billion na local trades on a daily basis. Eh ngayon, Dito lang gets more than a billion pesos already on a very, very average day for Dito. Ganun kalaki yung in-increase ng local market. Yan, if you've been watching it closely, I've noticed on a certain day, minsan 80% locals, 20% foreigners, and hindi yun local institutions. Dati I would always say, watch the mutual funds, watch those large institutions. Ngayon, ngayon it's locals already that's driving the market, and that's what you've been seeing sa mga locally driven stocks like Merrimart, AC Energy, dito. We are entering an era which is happening also in the States. If you followed yung nangyari sa GameStop, if you followed lahat na nangyari sa Wall Street Bets, we are entering an era where local retailers are taking a large part of are taking a large chunk of the transactions on a daily basis. And it's for I'm just sharing this also from a financial advisor standpoint. It's it will be you have to know as much as the clients that you are talking to na nag-invest sa stock market. And there are a lot of misconceptions that I've heard also that when it's entered in and talked to sa mga tao, it won't fly kung nag-invest ka talaga sa stocks because people who are investing know that there are certain things that are not really the right case doon, and we're gonna talk more about that. Some prevailing themes also is this basically. If you want to invest in equity funds, basically, I really believe this. These are for people who want exposure sa stock market but do not want to study. They just want the exposure but they don't want the nitty-gritty of it. Versus the ones na nag-invest directly in the stock market, they have to somehow analyze ano yung mga kailangan nila bilhin. Let me just what do they want to buy, how many they want to buy, and how do they segment their portfolio, but both will work. So if you're asking me, what do I have both. I invest directly in the stock market and I also have equity funds. One of my first investments was for balance funds, balance funds and equity funds. Then saka lang ako saka lang ako saka lang ako tumawid na mag-invest directly in the stock market. And even up until now, 2021, I still invest in equity funds. I still have an index fund. And what's nice about that, at least from my perspective, is it allows me also na meron akong parang baseline that, okay, kung in-invest ko pera ko sa index fund, sa equity fund, ito yung kinita nung linagay ko last year. Ito yung kinita ko this year. So it helps me that on times na kunyari sobrang mali ng mga ginagawa ko, I have something that could balance me out. But on times also that yung funds na yun, it becomes a drag. I hope that you're getting this and I hope na may natutunan kayo dito. But that's me to tell you that there will be people na kahit anong kausap nyo sa kanila, hindi sila magsa-stocks. Never sila magdi-direct stocks. Meron din tao na kahit anong convince nyo sa kanila na mag-mutual funds, mag-VUL, hindi rin sila mag-go directly doon. Pero meron tao na katulad ko, I'm in the middle, that you can do both eh. Because I'm under the notion that stocks, mutual funds, those are all assets eh. My comparison for all of them is mas mabuti na bumaba yung equity fund ko or magkamali ako sa stocks kesa bumili ako ng isang bagay na hindi ko masyado kailangan. So that's how I always compare it eh. My comparison is up against buying something that won't give me any value. So what's interesting also is fast forward to where we are right now, 2021, compared to the class that we had last year. Sobrang iba ng context eh because just to give you a highlight on nangyari last year, everyone knows that markets dropped noong March. Then every time na meron disclosure yung government on how the lockdowns would go, the market would start to go up. That's what happened in June when they opened Manila to GCQ. Biglang it went up, then it suddenly consolidated again. Then bumaba siya because they brought Manila back into MECQ. Then, at the latter part of the year, when we did the masterclass last year, it was at the point where the markets in the Philippines were rallying again because it was predominantly because of the vaccine. So, I mentioned this last year that there are three things that people should watch out for to look for recovery in the Philippines. Number one, the extent of the lockdowns, which now nakikita natin it start to ease. Number two, the vaccine, which alam natin, meron nang naro-roll out na vaccine. And number three, consumer confidence, which kung lumabas kayo kahapon ng Valentine, sobrang daming tao. I was shocked. at the amount of people that were out. So all of those things are now present. We now have data on it right now. It's just that also, given that we have data, saka rin maglalabasan yung mga bad economic figures na nalalabas last year. Remember, I'm getting ahead of myself, but think about it. Hindi lumalabas yung mga default sa mga bahay, sa mga loans ng bahay, kotse, businesses, primarily because there was a moratorium na naka-freeze siya. Eh ngayon, they removed it at the latter part of the year. It will come out already at some point this year yung mga hindi na talaga makakabayad. So you will see magbaballoon yung mga hindi nakapagbayad ng loan, and that's not also good from a sentiment standpoint. Jollibee today just also released that they made 2 billion pesos fourth quarter. Kumita na sila fourth quarter of 2020. However, there's still around 10, 11 billion net loss, and you will see that to a lot of companies that have been hit as well. Now, that being said, the reason why I say that is I zeroed in on direct stocks and I don't know. Oops. I zeroed in on equity funds and direct stocks for the primary reason of of this. There will be clients of yours that they just want the exposure, they just want the extra earnings that will be better than bonds, that will be better than time deposits. Lalo na ngayon, bonds are not as good anymore. I would say that na gusto ko mag-invest ng bonds kasi it's passive income, but because of the rates that we're getting right now, I stopped already buying bonds altogether. And uh, the reason why I said all of those things, the economy, what's happening to the Philippines, what's happening to the lockdown, is basically yung mga clients nyo na ayaw na aralin yun, it might be better for them na mag-equity funds na lang. And here are some questions that at least your clients would need to know if they are investing directly in the stock market. And as a financial advisor, it might be prudent that you ask those questions to them so that pag nag-stock sila, alam nila yung pinapasok nila. And so that also, pag nag-stock sila kasi hindi naman pala sila prepared doon, at least you warn them because the stock market right now has been placed at a point where it's shiny, na everyone wants to do it, everyone wants to invest in it, but what's not talked about is there's a lot of losses also in between. Everyone who will invest in the stock market will either have a paper loss or a cut loss or a time na babagsak yung stock nila na maghihintay sila ng matagal or a time na they will have to actualize a loss na malaki yung mawawala sa kanila. And that's part of it. But what's always talked about are the gains that it could possibly go up And I don't know kung nakikita niyo yung balita over the weekend that I got hundreds of messages asking, ano mangyari sa Converge, ano mangyari sa Converge? Because news about Elon Musk daw, etc., etc., etc. But people have this notion that I want to buy this because I think that this stock could possibly go higher because of this, but they're not thinking about what's the negative that could possibly happen. And you can share this to your clients because my style, every time I invest this, I never look at the reward. I always look at the risk. People always say risk and reward. Ako, I focus on the risk. Is this risk enough for me? Because if the risk is not enough for me, no matter what the reward is, I'm not going into it. Because if the risk is something that I can tolerate, lahat ng reward na makukuha ko, bonus na sa akin yun. I'll give you this analogy. Bitcoin, alam ko na yung Bitcoin 2013. At that time, $200 lang siya. And I would say, parang this is so shady. This is not something that, parang, this is not something this will fan, mawawala to. But lo and behold, 2018, I started investing. But look at that. It took me 5 years on first knowing it to actually putting money into it. Fast forward to 2021, into actually putting more money into it also. So I had to ease my way through as well. So some questions you ask your clients is this. Or you can ask yourself also because these are things that I'm asking. By the way, comment below guys if you're learning or if this is something that's helping you. I just need to drink water. Medyo nahirapan ako pag ganito mga videos. Minsan dire-diretso ako nagsasalita. You need to ask your clients until when I will be positioned in the stock market. Or that's one thing that you should ask yourself also. Or I'm asking myself when I started to invest. when I started to invest in the market, I was around 22 years old, around 22, 23, and at that time, parang, that was young, but now you have a lot of teenagers investing in the market. And when I started investing, one of the key things that I realized, or at least I thought was my main goal was basically tatanggalin ko lang to pag nag 60 years old ako. Tatanggalin ko lang to pag basically nag-retire ako. But what people don't notice, or tatanggalin ko lang to pag nakuha ko tong amount na to. Pero what's not also factored in there is, what if you get it earlier? Do you remove your money already and you stay out of the market? What if malapit na kayo sa target date ninyo pero hindi nyo pa siya nakukuha? What do you do? So, one of the first things that you need to ask your clients is, until when will you be positioned? And I'm sure Randall talked about this already, na pag short-term goal yan, you're not supposed to put short-term money, or you're not supposed to put short-term money in the stock market, because true enough, yung stock market pwede mo ibenta after 1 second, after 1 minute, after 5 minutes ang pagkabili mo. Pero, in a way, it's still a long-term investment. And I've seen so many people, especially from a Philippine context, fourth quarter last year, akyatan lahat ng stocks. First quarter this year, US tech stocks and cryptocurrencies, akyatan lahat. I've seen people put in more than they're supposed to put in because they're so enticed. And totoo naman, nakaka-tempt din naman to see things go fast and not put in more, kasi inisip natin at the back of our head, natutulog siya eh. But hindi dapat ganun eh. You always have to ask yourself, until when are you supposed to be plotted or invested in the market? Number two is this, and just to share from my personal, from what I did, was my goal before was a couple of things. I wanted to hit a certain amount. I wanted to hit it and invest it up until I was 60 years old. So, yun yung plan ko. Pero, yung thing about that is, yung certain amount na yun, I was able to, kala ko 60 ko makukuha, nakuha ko at a shorter pace. So, but you need to define also kung ano yung round number na yun para sa inyo. Kasi understandable na madami kayong clients also na hindi lang stocks yung assets nila. There will be some na madami ng real estate yan. I really believe that there's still a lot of people buying more condos more. There's still a lot of people also that are into businesses also as well. But anyways, number two, this is something that you ask your clients also, that, okay, stock market, anong market? It 10 years ago, 12 years ago, it's easy to say that pag Pilipino ka, sa Pilipinas ka lang mag-invest. Pero ngayon, there's so many apps already that allow you to invest in other markets outside the Philippines. That ngayon, hindi mo na kailangan lumabas ng Pilipinas para 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 bumili ng mga stocks outside the Philippines as well. So, people need to define, okay, Philippines lang ba ako, or will I invest further away? And just to share, no, when I started, Philippines lang din talaga yung alam ko, and most of you that are younger now, for sure at your age, know more than me when I was starting out. But I started adding, just so you know the way I'm thinking, I started to add Singapore primarily because I wanted REITs. I wanted more exposure to ETFs at that time kasi gusto ko bumili ng mga China na ETFs. Tapos at that time also, I wanted to buy gold ETFs also. So, that's why I went to Singapore. Plus yung REITs nila, na the dividends at that time were so attractive also kasi ang dami nilang mga malls na dati bago sila na interrupt ng e-commerce. Sobrang ganda ng retail ng Singapore. So I was already thinking that it allowed me to diversify in other assets na wala sa Pilipinas, pero above and beyond that, Singapore gave me security. Security in a way that the Singaporean dollar is one of the most stable currencies along with the Hong Kong dollar. Pero pag tinitingnan mo ngayon yung gulo na nangyari sa Hong Kong 2 years ago, my bet would still be in the Singaporean dollar. So you have a very, very stable currency, and then you have assets na wala pa sa Pilipinas at that time. Then, the reason why I diversified further, na-realize ko two things that are in US markets na I hope you and your clients get. Two things lang. Number one, all of the tech stocks are there. At least the ones that are relevant to the rest of the world. And number two, all of the brands that are there. Sa Philippines, we would always say Jollibee, SM, Ayala. When you go outside, McDonald's, Nike, Starbucks, Microsoft, Apple. Apple is a tech company, but it's also a brand. So, yun lang. They need to define what markets they are in. Number three, among the hundreds and the thousands of stocks out there, what should you buy? And this is what people don't realize eh. Pag sa Pilipinas ka mag-invest, there's over 200 plus stocks. Pag sa abroad ka nag-invest, there's over 1,000 stocks. Do you have the time to be able to screen all of them? Do you have the time to build a watch list that yung watch list na yun yung titignan mo, isa-isa because it might be glamorous to look at. Oh, sige, ano tayo? Consumer fast food slash fast food chains sa States. You have your McDonald's there, you have your Starbucks there, you have your Shake Shacks there na listed also. Pero alin doon bibilin mo? Tapos bibilin mo ba sila lahat? And those are the questions that need to be answered. Now, upon deciding what are the ones that you're buying, you also have to realize how many companies would you buy. Meron pala ako nakalimutan sabihin. Sabi ko abroad no tech stocks and stocks with large brands. Because Biden won, I'm just giving you bits and pieces of how I think. Because Biden won right now, I'm leaning towards, and I've been buying a lot of the ones that are connected to renewable energy. So, mga solar companies yan na kahit hindi states, labas ng states, pero alam ko makikinabang because of the shift or change in presidency. Pero do they have enough time also that, sige, out of this number of stocks na bibiling ko, nababantayan ko, ilan lang talaga bibiling ko? Do I buy 10? Do I buy 20? Do I buy 30? Do I buy 5? And that's one of the biggest questions that people don't, that they always ask, but they start buying, tapos umuusbong lang, ang dami nilang binili. And I've seen some people also sa Pilipinas that 2012, someone in Cebu approached me na nag-invest na siya sa stock market mula 1980s. And while they were investing in the 1980s, sabi ko, congratulations, you must have done really, really well. Sabi niya, hindi nga eh. Kasi the problem with her was that she had over 90 plus stocks sa portfolio niya. Philippines lang to 90 plus Philippines stocks sa Pilipinas. So, there were some stocks that, as in, more than a decade na, never went above 1 peso. And when you added everything up, she didn't really earn as much. Given that may mga nabili siya doon na sobrang gandang mga fundamentally sound companies for 20 years na niya hawak. Pero because she had 90 stocks, na outweigh yung mga magaganda dun sa mga pangit also. And you have to realize this that since konti lang yung sector sa Pilipinas, konti lang din yung magiging market leader. You can't really buy 20 and say that all of them are market leaders in their particular fields. Let alone buying 90 stocks. How can you have 90 stocks and then say that isa dun sobrang ganda? Anyways, but those are things that need to be asked. Number 5 is this. You also need to realize that, when I plan to position in my portfolio, okay, how do I allocate? Kung naisip ko 5 stocks yung bibilin ko, do I do 20, 20, 20, 20, 20 each? Kasi even if you check yung allocations ng mutual funds, they're not equally balanced. The fund managers have a methodical style on how they would allocate money also. They would allocate percentages. And basically, if you are trading your own stocks, you become your own mini fund manager. I guess the difference lang between fund managers versus retailers is, alam niyo yung, the best way to put an analogy is yung nagsiswimming ka, yung nasa swimming pool ka tapos binato ka, tapos natuto ka lumangoy, versus yung nag-scientific swimming ka. Kasi nung bata ako, nag-Eric Buhain ako. I don't know if you know Eric Buhain, but he was one of the top swimmers when we were younger, 1990s, he won the Southeast Asian Games. So I tried to do scientific swimming. And what I've realized is similar to selecting stocks, there's a methodology on how you would swing your arms, how you would breathe, versus yung binato ka lang, tapos para lang matuto ka mag-swimming, parang langoy aso lang. The difference is why fund managers are not as emotional is because there are methods, there are systematic tools that they're using. And one of that also is how you allocate properly. So, one thing that you would ask them is, paano mag-allocate? 2020, 2020, 2020, or 30, tapos may 10% kang cash lagi na nakaiwan. Because if you cannot answer that, it might be prudent also to have exposure in funds because that gives you, although hindi siya glamoroso, hindi siya yung something na pinag-usapan natin 100%, 200%, but it gives you a good steady return and it will give you an average of earnings also. Number six, before you ask, as you ask yourself also, when I plan to position and how do you allocate in terms of percentage, the next thing that you need to ask yourself is, when you buy, do you buy it all at once or do you buy it in tranches? Meaning, your client is there, meron siyang 100,000 pesos or meron siyang 500,000 para simple. 500,000 pesos from your clients, then sinabi niya, sige, out of this 500,000, I will buy 5 stocks. Out of this 5 stocks, I will allocate 100,000 each. So, we're talking about an equally weighted portfolio. I say equally weighted because 500,000, you're allocating 100, 100, 100, 100 each. Tapos, ngayon, yung tanong doon is this: okay, sa 5 na to, nag-decide ka, I'll just give Philippine stocks as an example. Sabihin natin, Ayala Land, SM, SMIC, then sabihin natin, lagay natin yung Merrimart doon, then sabihin natin, you put BDO, then maybe a mining stock, sabihin natin nickel. Yung 5 na yun, then you say 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, then you have 100,000 each. The next question is this: yung 100,000 ba yun, do you buy it all at once? Or do you strategically tranche it? Meaning, hindi mo siya ilalagay in one go. Just to share from my own doing, sa trading, sa akin sa trading, ano ko, buy once, sell once. As in, I would sell everything. For investing, that's where I also start to tranche. That I want to, I don't have to capture the lowest point, but at least I get exposure somewhere near the lowest point for investing. And ganun din on drops. I have to realize that, okay, mas maganda minsan na pag hindi mo ma-capture yung pinaka-bottom, you know how to add exposure into it. Pero for me sa trading, sell quickly. Anyways, number 7 is yun din, how do you tranche it? Kasi the reason why I say that is this: dadating yung point in time na yung 500,000 nyo, pwedeng lumaki yun or pwedeng bumaba yun, pero which leads me to point number 8, it cannot stop the question that, may sweldo kayo eh, may bonuses kayo eh, may other sources of income kayo that you can put in the market eh. That as you start putting those sources of income in the market, again, yung pinapasok in equity lumalaki. Where do you put that money? Do you put that in the same stocks that you bought again? Or do you buy a 6 or 7 or 8 stock to complement that portfolio? And those are the things that are not talked about and not asked also by your clients, that sige, bili na lang ako, bili ko na tong SM, bili ko na tong Jollibee, bili ko na tong Dito, bili ko na tong ASEN, and then bahala na yung proportion. Technical analysis talks about timing. Fundamental analysis tells you what stocks you're supposed to buy. But what's a very, very important skill that fund managers have is their ability to allocate capital in certain chunks that matter the most. Kasi bakit? You could earn 100% in a certain stock. Pero yung stock na yun na 100%, 10% lang ng portfolio mo, it might not really help you. Versus, may stock ka na bumagsak ng 20%, tapos yung stock na bumaba ng 20%, 40% ng portfolio mo na nakalagay doon. So, nakain din niya yung pwede mong kitain. So, that's what I'm saying. I hope you're getting this and I hope that this is helping you. Number 9, yun yung hirap sa online na you don't get to see who you're talking to. Number 9 is, when do you decide to hold on or to sell the stock? Kasi people always say that the only time you sell the stock is when you hit your goal. Not really. You can buy and sell, and you can come into the market, in and out of the market, even if you are an investor, even if hindi pa na-hit yung goal mo. Meaning, the normal notion for me to decide when to sell for investing is I would generally look at the company. I would generally look at the fundamentals of the company. That kung hindi nagbago yung fundamentals, I don't need to sell. But when it comes to a point in time where 6 years down the line as an investor, and then I see the fundamentals of the company start to shift, then I start to sell. No matter what the branding of the company is, no matter how shiny the price looks like. I'll give you an example. The best example I can give you is this. There was a point in time, water lang ako. There was a point in time where PLDT was dominating the market. This was alam niyo naman in 90s and early 2000s. Then suddenly Globe started to get a larger portion of it. And PLDT at a certain point in time did not pivot quickly in terms of they were still holding on to a lot of their traditional and legacy businesses. And there was a point already from the fundamentals, 2011, 2012, 2013, you would see their sales start to mature, and then you would see their income also start to mature. Even though their stock prices was massively high at that time, the fundamentals was already telling you to sell. So ganun din as an investor. Pag dividends din naman hanap mo, I want to buy, I'm keeping this stock because it gives me this amount of dividend up until now. Pero, biglang nagbago. They cut their policies. They cut the rates na binibigay nila. Those should be triggers already for you to exit. And kung titignan mo yung nangyari last year, sobrang daming companies that either slash their dividends or remove it completely already. That could also be a trigger for you to sell kahit long-term ka. You should know when to come out if you are investing in the market. The biggest thing that people need to realize when they're investing in stocks is they know when to come in, and which is one of the easiest, but they should also know when they come out at a gain and when they come out at a loss. And I'll say this all the time, even if you invest in the market, kahit hindi ka trader, investor ka, pero mali na talaga yung fundamentals pangit na yung company kahit you are at a loss, you will have to sell. There's a misconception that pag investor ka, you don't have to sell at a loss. That's not true also. Especially if you want to invest in US markets na sobrang shifting yung fundamentals doon because ang dami nilang competitors or sobrang ang bilis mag-evolve ng technology that baka hindi na relevant yung ginagawa nila. You would see certain things there na kung hindi na siya ganun kaganda, kahit loss ka pa, you have to sell. And I've seen certain stocks also in the Philippines that 10 years na, hindi pa rin sila umakyat Some of them, 5 years na, hindi pa sila umakyat. You can see some clues already that, hindi ko lang kung napansin nyo yun, there are certain stocks ngayon that lahat ng stocks bumagsak noong March 2020. Pero, there's a big chunk of them also that they've already gone above pre-COVID levels, at least nung nag-rally yung market. Some of them ngayon bumaba na pero there's a big chunk of them that went up above pre-COVID levels. Pero there are some of them that hindi sila bumalik ng pre-COVID levels. And that's already, in my opinion, something to look at as a telltale sign already. Why did the others go back? Assuming na lahat sila natamaan, lahat ng stocks nagkaroon ng bad sentiment. Pero yung ibang stocks na to, hindi man lang nag-rally. That's something that they must look into. Anyways, again, iba pa yung pag nag-charts kayo, you use technical analysis to sell. But some questions lang that you ask your clients. And number 10, after selling, ano gagawin nila? What should they do with the cash when they sell? Kasi sometimes, the common tendency is napapabenta lang tayo just for the sake of selling, just because kumita tayo. The notion of pera na baka maging bato pa. The notion of doble na okay na to, baka bumaba Pero you do not sell just because you're making money. You sell either natamaan mo yung goal mo or natamaan mo yung rules mo or your parameters to exit a certain position. And that's what's important because pagkabenta mo, the problem is people don't know already, ano gagawin ko sa cash ko, saan ako papasok ulit? And the tendency is that I've seen is they're pressured to reinvest the money. As they're pressured to reinvest the money, nagkakamali. Or they buy it higher. And then they regret, sana hindi ko pala binenta mo na yun. And sa akin before you sell, it either has to be, there's a chance that a decline is possible, that the downside may be bigger than the reason for you holding on to it, or there might be a better position na doon mo na lang siya ilipat versus holding on to it again. So there. And if you do not want to, and if your clients do not want to take the time to learn all of these items mentioned above but still want exposure, then I really believe that equity funds and balance funds are the way to go. I really believe that with all my heart. As much as I like everyone to invest directly in the stock market, to have their own position, to select what they want to buy and sell, there will still be a larger portion of the population. And this is, I'm not saying this is true in all of the other countries. There will still be, there's still a larger portion even in the States na may mas malaki yung pera pa rin sa mutual funds. Mas malaki pa rin yung pera sa mga pooled funds than yung nag-direct investing. So, if that happens in more developed markets, I think that will be also the rationale even here in the Philippines, that even though we would want a lot of people to pick their own stocks, there will still be a larger amount of people that will have exposure to the stock market but don't want to do all of the 10 things. If you ask those questions to your clients and hirap na hirap sila i-answer yun, it's your, in my opinion, it's a very, very good response. It's your responsibility to, number one, nudge them that it might be better that they go the funds route, or above and beyond going the funds route, kung gusto rin nila mag-invest pa rin sa stock market, exposure-wise, kung 1 million yung pera nila, probably a smaller percentage of that 1 million goes to the stock market, but a larger portion of that money goes to mutual funds. And pwede nyo gawin, what they can do is, they beta test it, mutual funds, stock market. And as they start testing it, year three already of them investing, their mutual funds still outperform their individual stocks. Then it means that they made the right decision, that tama lang pala na hindi ako nag-invest ng mas madami sa stock market because my stock market investments underperform versus investing in the fund. So after the third year also, tapos nakita nila na, teka, mas maganda yung position ko sa stock market, I'm earning actually more sa stock market. Then it would be more prudent also that damihan yung nilagay sa stock market. Huwag nyo tanggalin yung nilagay sa mutual funds. Huwag nyo tanggalin yung nilagay sa stock market. Pero kung meron silang fresh funds na pwedeng ilagay, you could highly suggest that they could put more kung saan sila mas na-perform. And why do I say 3 years? 3 years for 2 reasons. Number one, pwedeng on the first year chumambak. It could be like that that it's so easy na makachamba also kung pumasok ka at a time na sobrang bagsak yung market. And your earnings will be higher. But number two also, 3 years, because if you are, kung pangit yung kita mo on the first years, it's understandable because it happens to everyone that the stock market is something, in my opinion, that's skill-based. My opinion, it's skill-based, meaning on the first year of you investing, it's not expected of you to be super good. Parang sa trabaho nyo, kahit lawyer ka, doctor ka, accountant ka, engineer ka, you won't be good in picking, timing, allocating in the stock market on your first year. And it will take time for you to be able to develop those skills. So anyways, I hope that this is helping you. And I just want to say this also, as a financial advisor, your goal is not to put them in competition with each other. Please remember that. The stock market is not in competition with mutual funds. Mutual funds is not in competition with with equi- with the stock market is not in competition with mutual funds. Mutual funds is not in competition with the stock market. And in the same way, UITF, mutual funds, and VULs are not also in competition with each other. Those are all assets. The more of that they have, the better. The more that they could complement it with each other, those assets together, the better it will be also. So, yun. One thing that I would highly suggest also is this. When I started, I would tell people, pag mag-invest ka, pag mag-invest ka sa stock market, maging investor ka muna kasi mas safe 'yon kesa maging trader ka. Pero what I've realized is this, looking at it from hindsight, the best suggestion that you can tell people is when they start investing, assuming na meron na silang mutual funds, meron na silang VUL, when they start investing in the stock market, they try both na. They both be a trader and they both be an investor. Then you may say, ba't mo sasuggest yun? Isn't that risky? But what I've realized is this. If they spend 2, 3, 4 years being an investor, and on the fourth year, they decide, sige, trader, mag-try na rin ako mag-trade. That means that on the fourth year, they've built zero skills on trading. They've built zero experience, mindset on trading as well. The best thing that they can do is, at the start, put money for investing, put money for trading, because sobrang different ng mindset ng trading, sobrang different ng mindset ng investing. Sa trading kasi sometimes, you're okay buying it when it's expensive and higher as long as umaakyat siya. Whereas as an investor, ayaw mo yun. Kasi why would I buy something that's expensive? The whole the whole the whole rationale of an investor is I want to buy it cheap. As long as it has a chance for me to grow higher, I'm willing to wait. Sometimes for trading is baliktad. I don't want to wait, but I will position when it starts to go up. Then when it's going up, I will be disciplined enough also to hold on to it. Sa investing, baliktad. Kahit hindi siya umaakyat ngayon, kahit minsan pababa pa siya, bibiling ko na siya kasi mura siya. The longer I wait, the larger my upside will also be. And if you look at that, the mindset of that is totally different. And that's why even the way I would split my portfolios, totally magkaiba. And I would share this to a lot of people that the best thing that you could ever do if you are investing directly in the stock market is to split your portfolios, different brokerages, different plans for each brokerages. Meaning, itong broker na to, itong account na to, pang trade. Itong account na to, pang invest. So that, separate yung money, so that, pag mataas yung market, mahal yung market, hindi ka na magla-log in from an investing account. In the same way also, pag hindi mo kailangan magbenta, hindi ka matitempt eh. You will realize this, that in the stock market, it will always be about emotions. Anytime you put your money na asset class yan, it's your emotions that will get the better of you eh. And the reason why it's nice to split portfolios and to have two different portfolios for trading and investing is so that maghiwalay yung pera, hindi mo kailangan mag-login dun sa portfolio na hindi mo kailangan mag-login talaga. And kung gusto mo talagang super disciplined, you can open another brokerage also that sobrang liit ng amount na nandun. So that dun kayo mag-monitor, dun kayo mag-login, dun kayo mag-check, hindi kayo matitempt magbenta, hindi kayo matitempt bumili kasi wala dun yung larger amount of your portfolio. And that's what I suggest, and that's what I do. I segment everything that I have a portfolio for dividends, I have a portfolio for growth na investing, then I have a portfolio also for trading. Because your rules for trading should be different from your rules on investing. And that's where you segment it. And you also have to realize that when you start investing sabay for funds and stocks, the returns won't be the same. It will never be the same. What funds will give you is the stability that hindi siya sobrang laking bagsak, pero hindi rin siya sobrang laking movement upward. You will be somewhere in the middle. And I think that will help a lot of people, especially just to share. I've seen so many people lose money buying BlackBerry and GameStop. Which because they heard so many people buy it kasi umakyat siya ng halos 10 times, more than 10 times. And they're buying it just for the notion of, hindi, nakita ko, kaibigan ko kumita, so might as well, I'll follow it. That will never happen. You will not lose 90% of your money if you invest in mutual funds. That's for sure. You won't lose 90% of your money if you invest in an index fund. That will never happen. But if you invest in stocks, especially if you leverage, especially if you short, you can lose everything. If you invest in stocks, you don't leverage, you don't short, you can still lose 80+%, you can still lose 50+%. And I'm not just talking about US stocks. Sa Philippine market, I've seen stocks drop over 90+%. Anyways, so here are some of the biggest questions that I get. And by the way, I shared this last November, I think October or November yun. My strategy no in investing is whenever I have capital or I get fresh funds, I would always allocate that. Meron talagang allocation for the market. However, it doesn't mean that I allocate it for the market, ibibili ko na siya kagad. Every time I allocate it, it just stays there as cash up until there comes a point in time na dapat ko na talaga siyang bilhin, na dapat na talaga ako magdagdag. And nakasplit pa yon. Meron talagang cash that goes for dividend stocks, meron cash doon that goes for trading, meron cash that goes for investing. But above and beyond that, ito, I've been building what you call a just in case of recession fund. And what I've been doing with that is this. Good market, bad market, I've been putting cash there. Tulog lang siya. I think I started doing that 2013. What did that do? The whole intention of me getting a just in case of recession fund was this. That just in case a market crash will happen, that just in case a recession will happen, nabulot mo yung monitor. Nabulot yung monitor. Just in case a recession will happen, I will take out all of that and invest it into something that I can find na cheaper. So guess what? Last year, markets crashed. After almost 7 or 8 years na naglalagay ako doon, natulog siya, I took out everything and I started to buy the stocks that I really, really liked before na hindi siya bumababa, pero at that time, March, April last year, was so attractive for me. And you can also do that and you can also share that to your clients that you all know this It's not a question whether a recession will happen, it's only a question of when. Recession, we're still in a recession right now, pero there will come a point where we will recover. But there will come a point also that sometime in the future, I don't know when, 2028, 2030, 2032, 2034, markets will crash again. There will be a recession again. I don't know what will be the cause. And my job as an investor is not to know what the cause is. My job as an investor is I don't have to forecast, I don't have to predict what will happen. But my job as an investor is just to allocate enough funds that when it happens again, I'm ready. Because people always would say that 2020 caught everyone off guard. Totoo naman. We did not know that what would cause the markets to crash, that would cause the economy to go down, was a virus. But it was long due already. 2008, 12 years of unprecedented growth in the global economy and global markets. Every time people would think that the party won't end, that's the time it would end. And the most prudent thing for you to do is kahit tulog siya, you need to have a level of cash. And that's what I did. So here's what's interesting. Yung years na tulog siya, natatalo siya ng inflation, natalo siya ng bonds, natalo siya ng time deposits, when I started to deploy them on certain stocks and certain funds that were lower in a year, yung years na tulog siya, bawin na niya lahat yun. Because the money in investing is also in the positioning. And what you need to tell your clients and what they need to realize that it's all about volume. I will always pick volume more than getting it right all the time. I will always pick having a larger volume than trying to get that 100% jackpot. And that's why I would always say this, that kung papapiliin mo ako, kung may 1 million, kung may 1 million pesos ka earning 100% or 10 million pesos earning 10%, I would rather get the 10 million and just invest that in something that gives me 10% than take the 1 million and put it into something that gives me 100%. Why? Volume is still the game. Please remember this. The stock market is not an adder. It does not add to you. It multiplies what you have. If you have 1 million versus 10 million, the one that has 10 million or the volume will have, in my opinion, a better success rate. Why? Because kung tinignan mo, 1 million earning 100%, you'll also earn a million. 10 million earning 10%, you'll also get a million. Same lang. Pero, here's what's interesting. It's harder to get 100% successive in successive years, it's hard to get 100% for 10 years straight. But it's easier to get 10% for 10 years straight. And what's interesting there is if you get 15, 20, 30% off of that 10 million, then you actually earn more. What you need to tell people is they always treat investing in assets in the stock market as a storer of value. That they continually add to it, they add to it, they add to it, they add to it. Either they time it, they position, kahit anong pag-isipan nila doon. But what's important is they build the base. And then when the base starts to get bigger, it doesn't matter if it's 2 years down the line, 4 years down the line, 8 years down the line, 12 years down the line. But as the base gets bigger, that's when the fun happens. Because as the base gets bigger, konting galaw lang nung investments nila, then the earnings would also be noticeable. Then the dividends would also be noticeable. And because they've been doing it for 10 years, 15 years building that base, that means they've already also developed the acumen na pag bumagsak, nakita nila dati na, okay, nasanay na ako, yung dating loss ng buong portfolio ko, loss ko lang sa isang araw. When they've realized that na kaya ko pala to withstand when their portfolio is bigger, I think they would be okay. So there, I hope you're learning and I hope this is something that's helping you. I'm medyo napapashare ako based on some of the experiences that I've had, but I've been getting so many questions also from financial advisors from different insurance companies, and I hope that some of the things that I'm sharing you are most of the questions that they would get, especially last year nung bumagsak yung market. They had they were bombarded also with a lot of questions from their clients who were genuinely scared din talaga. And the most prudent thing that we could tell people is we will recover. We've actually recovered already. The market, at least the market, not the economy, but the market has recovered. We're consolidating right now. But there will come a point again na we will go down, that it's gonna drop. So before we go to a break, I want to answer one question that's normally asked is this. Uh, and I would share this all the time that this has been something na hindi ko masyado ginagawa dati pero mas ginagawa ko na siya siguro for the past 7 or 8 years. Um, what's commonly asked sa financial advisor is this, and they would share different opinions on it, is if you invest in the stock market, you have to watch it all the time, every minute, to make money. Kasi kung hindi mo siya kayang bantayan every minute, hindi ka kikita. Kung hindi mo siya kayang bantayan every minute, di mutual funds ka na lang. Which, in my opinion, is not the case because when you invest in the stock market, you could earn money from cash flow. And I've been sharing this immensely the past years that dividend investing is the game. Dividend investing is you buy a stock with a high dividend yield and with good fundamentals. What does that mean? You have to look at it this way. Comment below nga. I just want to get a sense of the room. Are you familiar already kung saan nanggagaling yung dividends? I just want to get a sense of do you know ano yung pinaka-rational kung bakit nagbibigay ng dividends yung companies? Okay, that's true. Everyone's making a comment na earnings. Pero, if you realize this, sobrang daming company rin na may malalaking earnings pero they barely give dividends. Look at the pure goals of the world. Look at SM. They barely give dividends. The thing about dividends is this. This is a portion of their income that is above and beyond all of their projects already. Meaning, kung target lang ng Pure Gold sample lang to, target lang ng Pure Gold magpatayo ng 10 supermarket. If they have money to build 30 supermarkets kasi sobrang laki ng kinita nila, most likely 10 pa rin yung papatayo nila. Why is that? Kasi think about it this way. Minsan kasi hindi lang when you want to expand, hindi lang pera yung problema eh. Baka mamaya gusto nila may pera sila pampatayo ng 30 supermarkets pero wala pa silang lupa na pwedeng paglagyan or wala pa silang manpower na pwedeng i-hire. So, the more prudent way for them is to stick with their plan and just build 10. Kaso the problem with that is dahil sobra yung pera nila, ways, no, if you don't use your money, you're not utilizing it well. If you use it naman na sobra-sobra, you don't have enough liquid, you might not be super liquid. And kung may sobra ka pa na sobra na pera, natulog lang sa bangko, the rationale of dividends is, instead na tulog siya sa bangko na hindi ko naman talaga gagamitin, better soli ko na siya sa investors ko. And some of those companies that earn a lot of money basically are saying that kahit madami kaming sobrang pera, alam namin yung paggagamitan namin eh. That's why you will see a lot of companies that are expanding na kahit sobrang laki ng kinikita nila, they barely give dividends or kung nagbigay sila ng dividends, sobrang baba. Why? Because they have use for the money. They have use for it na alam nila kung saan nila paglalagyan. Please remember, negosyo ng kumpanya is to run their business, to make the business make money, not really to give dividends. Because essentially, if they build the company right, the company expands, the valuations get bigger, the stock price will also go up. Anyways, tama rin yung sabi nyo that dividends come from earnings. That since dividends comes from earnings, if you are super, 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 super passive, you can just look at stocks that give dividends. Bakit? For sure yun that malaki yung chance na hindi magsasara yun for the short term because bago sila magsara, bago sila mag-bankrupt, unang nawawala kagad dividends eh. And as you can see it also from last year, a lot of those companies that okay naman sila, they already slashed their dividends because they wanted to protect their money. So even if they were good, I saw some comments that maganda yung kita ng 2019. Please remember this. If that's the flow of thought, why did some companies slash their dividends in 2020 if their dividends was based on 2019 earnings? Because dividends they're not mandated to give it eh. Hindi naman eh. They can slash it if they want to protect the company. Pero, if you find the company na in the midst of the pandemic, their dividends either stayed the same or they even gave more, that's a really, really good company. And sure yun na hindi siya magsasara. Na sure yun na if they have the capability to earn dividends, that means they have more than enough for their own expenditures, but they have more than enough also for their expansion, but they have also more than enough that they could also give other people or they can give their investors. Now, why do I say that if you are a passive investor, hindi mo na kailangan bantayan yung stock market on a daily basis or a minute-per-minute basis because of dividend investing? I want you to picture this out. The way you would look at it is, paano nagpaparenta kayo? Paano nagpapaupa kayo? If you buy a condo and your intention is to rent it out, you don't really care kung anong presyo yung value ng condo at that point na pinaparenta mo siya eh. Why? Because hindi mo naman siya ibibenta eh. Pero later on, 8 years from now, 12 years from now, when you actually decide to sell it, after getting all of the rental collections that you have, uy, nagulat pala ako, binili ko to 10 piso, ngayon 18 pesos na, ngayon 24 na. I just bought it at 10. Then you can sell it. Pero, you are a dividend investor. When you are a dividend investor, it does not matter what the daily fluctuations are. It does not matter kung bumagsak siya. Because if the company is good, the fundamentals is still the same, hindi nagbago, or if it even got better, and then they still gave a higher amount of dividends pa, kahit bumabagsak yung price, dapat hindi ka natatakot. And this is not talked about as much because this is not sexy. This is not what will give you the high-flying returns. But you have to realize this, that yung dividends niyan, especially for good companies, over a 10-year period, over a 15-year period, umaakyat siya. So meaning, baka nabili mo yung stock ng 5 piso. Dati dividends niya 10 years ago, 50 centavos lang. Eh ngayon, dividends niya 3 pesos na. So that means 5 piso lang pinasok mo, 3 pesos yung dividends, you are earning 60% a year from yung initial na pinasok mo. That's how powerful dividends are if you hold it for a long period of time. And it doesn't matter what the fluctuations and volatility is. So, meaning also, kung bumagsak yung market, you have an expected amount of money that you can get eh. Kung market, kung habol mo naman dividends, please remember, sa stock market, the only time you actualize the loss is when you sell it at the loss. Eh kung consistent pa siya nagbibigay ng dividends kahit bumagsak yung stock, then you shouldn't be even scared. I shared this the last time we did this session. Here are some stocks that give consistent dividends. So this is Globe. Very, very consistent. Maglalabas ulit sila ng dividends. So, kung gusto nyo habulin yung Globe, they're giving out dividends. I think February 19 yung ex-date. So, if you want to be able to participate and have yung first set of dividends nila for 2021, you should buy it before Feb 19. So, I think Friday yun. So, yun. You can look at it that way. But look at Globe here. Consistent. 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. At the height of the pandemic, they even increased their dividends pa. When everyone was storing cash, slashing their dividends, they increased it even more. I don't know how their dividends will be for 2021 because they disclosed already yung 2020 earnings nila is not as good as 2019. 2019 was a better year for Globe than 2020. Primarily because if you've noticed the shift no, of at least strategy between Globe and PLDT, si Globe, they focused a lot, they focused heavily on 5G. Si PLDT, they focused on broadband. And yung story ng 2020, since lahat tayo nasa bahay, mas naging relevant ang broadband because we were all at home. Anyways, I mentioned PLDT also, but PLDT is also very, 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 very consistent in giving out their dividends. So, ganun din. PLDT, if you look at it on a year-to-year basis, from 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 was one of their highest dividends. Bumabalik na ulit siya sa pag-increase ng dividends niya. And if you follow the narrative, mas mataas yung kinita ng PLDT 2020 versus 2019. So if they gave out this much dividends in 2020, there's a bigger possibility that, I don't know what their dividends for 2021 will be, but if it's a following that mas maganda yung kita ng 2020, baka mas maganda rin yung dividends bibigyan ng 2021. But this is so interesting because at the height of the lockdown, March, April, nung bumabagsak yung market, you don't know what's gonna happen to the stock price eh. But what's interesting is those companies that were so solid and steady in giving out their dividends, you had an expectation na may cash flow ka na makukuha. And I'll say this over and over. When I was younger, ayoko ng dividends, it was boring eh. But this is how you can predict cash flow eh. That alam mo that 5 years from now, 7 years from now, if they give something that's specific, na consistent sila sa dividends nila, tapos hindi naman threaten yung earnings, you can already predict na may makukuha kang cash flow. You cannot predict what the stock price will be 5 years from now. You cannot predict what it will be 3 years from now. But what you do know is, if the company's earnings are consistent, you can get cash flow and you can get dividends kahit bumagsak yung stock niya. Before we go to a break, this is one of the higher giving stocks that give out higher dividends also. SPC, as you can see right here, no, at its height, no, kung na-time nyo siya properly, your dividend yield should be more than 13, 14, 15 plus percent. I'll just run through this before we go to the break, but I have lots of videos on that, and here are some 5 stocks that are so interesting in dividend yields. PLDT, Globe, AREIT, SPC, and MER. Look at this. PLDT stock price. This is not the stock price already of today, no, but I just wanted to show you the yields based on the dividends that they give. 1424 dividends 5.41%. Then you have this Globe 5.28%, assuming that these are the dividends that they would give. AREIT, no, under the assumption that the dividends that they would give this year is around 1.4 pesos per share. So AREIT today halos nag 34 pesos na siya, 33.8 around that much. So if they give out 1.4 na dividends for the year, your yields would be lower already. Nasa below 4 plus percent na sila. Primarily because the stock price went higher. So I mentioned this about dividends. Yung difference kasi sa AREIT compared to other stocks is mandated sila by law that they're supposed to give 90% of their income and give it out give it out as dividends. They're supposed to give it out as dividends. Unlike other companies na common stocks, wala silang choice eh. They have a choice to slash it. But for REITs, they are mandated by law to give out that revenue and give it out as dividends. So anyways, yun. Then Meralco also 5.3. Then SPC. By the way, SPC was one of the ones that slashed their dividends out. Um, Nag-slash sila. Mas mataas yung binibigyan niya na dividends dati. Mas mababa ngayon. Pero even though mas mababa ngayon and even though tumaas na yung stock price niya, their dividend yield is still relatively higher. So there.
All right, Marvin, I need to cut you because we need to restart the Zoom. There's been a lot of people who got kicked out and couldn't come in. There's a bug in Zoom right now, and I've been messaging you for the last 15 minutes to break. You're not reading your messages. Joke lang. So, everybody, we're gonna go on a break. But when we go on a break, we will exit Zoom. So give me about a minute or two. Rejoin Zoom, please. Assuming that we can't use the link, go to Facebook. Assuming lang na hindi na pwede link, I will post a new link. So during the break, I'd like to fix, there's something wrong with Zoom right now. There's a lot of your classmates who cannot come in. So if you know them, please, we're gonna go on a break. Anyway, these are all recorded so you can rewatch this. Kabayan, maybe give them 5 to 7 minutes to reboot everything so that we can do this. All right?
Hello, Sir Randall.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. Actually, I received an email na kailangan daw mag-update ng Zoom if ever kasi parang may version something na kailangan. So, kung hindi sila updated dun sa version, I think magbabag talaga siya lagi.
Okay. So, yun lang. I also put the Facebook on what happened. Maybe Zoom just updated. Nangyari to the before, no? They just updated mid-time. So, everybody had a problem. Anyway, sige. If you guys know those mga hindi makapasok, you might want to, let's break for 10 minutes so that I can restart everything. Alright? So, I'll see you guys in about 5 to 10 minutes. Exit and then rejoin in a while. Alright?
Noted, sir. Thank you.
Well, there it is again.
Charging serve there.